about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we started celebrating Hanukkah last night, and it has been draped in the chaos and tragedy that we have seen unfold over the weekend, which we'll get to when we have some updates for you all. And the Jews, I can't speak for all of us, but, I've seen anti-Semitism throughout, my upbringing, but never to this degree. It has risen so precipitously, and it has gotten to a point where in many places it's popular. It's now the vogue thing. And I wasn't around in the 1930s and pre-Nazi and the Nazi rise, to power in Germany. But I got to tell you, I mean, when you read the history books and when I remember my family stories, it's sounding pretty damn similar. And to see such anti-Jewish sentiment and to see such carnage and attacks, and this Bondi Beach wasn't the only attack. I mean, we've had synagogues attacked, now, almost every month or something is happening that just the news isn't covering it. And so here we are with Hanukkah, and the story of Hanukkah. The many of the holidays, like Christmas. I love Christmas. Christmas is one of my favorite holidays, but there's solemn meaning to it. It's the birth of Christ. So I mean, we might commercialize Hanukkah and Christmas, and we might decorate and have fun, which I think we should. But there's always some very deeper meaning to it, just like with Easter. And so, with Hanukkah, it was around, I think it was 200 BC. I have to kind of double check. 2nd century BC, where the Greek Syrian army was in control of the Jews, and they were forcing. They destroyed the temple. They destroyed any semblance of Jewish religion. And they were forcing idols. They put Zeus up in the. Trust me, I like Greek mythology and all that, but not in the temple. They put statues of Zeus. They forced Jews to eat pigs, and there was also rape and all sorts of other horrible things that happened during that time. But Judaism was outlawed; it was banned. And so the story of Hanukkah is you had a small group of fighters that were able to overtake and overcome. That's one of the miracles of Hanukkah, led by Judah Maccabee. And the Maccabees, word for hammer, came down and was able to defeat the army, get them out of Jerusalem, get them out of, away from the temple, so that Jews could reconsecrate it and ignite their religion, so that they could believe what they want to believe. And when they did try to consecrate the temple and dedicate the temple, there was a little jar of oil. They needed that oil to last 8 days. It was only enough for one day. They said, well, whatever we do what we can until we could get more supplies. Just do what you can. And the miracle of Hanukkah is that oil lasted and was able to light the candelabra, for 8 days. And that's why we celebrate with the menorah. We light the candles for 8 days. We eat a lot of fatty foods like latkes and sufganiyot, which are like and palachinkas, and like the donuts. They're like jelly donuts, things like that. I don't really eat those because I got to watch my weight. But I did definitely have some latkes. We played dreidel, Nes Gadol Hayasham. A great miracle happened here. So it's a story of, again, the minority overcoming an oppressive society and an oppression that wouldn't allow you to worship or live how you wanted to live and be who you wanted to be. And you hear of these stories that were centuries old and all that, and you're like, well, thank God we live in a better time. But do we? I don't think people feel that they could be free. Not just Jews. Look at Christians and what's happening in Nigeria. Look at, LDS communities and people fighting them, constructing a church. We have, individuals where the hate never leaves. And here we are trying to celebrate the holidays, and you see a massacre on a beach where Jews were just trying to celebrate Hanukkah. I mean, they weren't trying to hurt anybody. They weren't trying to, change society. They weren't interfering with somebody else's, life or decision or whatever. They were celebrating a holiday. And it's very common in beach communities. I think I was in Maui years ago, and they lit the menorah on the beach. It's a beautiful ceremony. Anybody else there can join in. There's dancing and music and food, and it's a big party. And unfortunately, people were massacred. Just yesterday, 2 nights ago, Australian time, because of what they believed in. That's frightening. Charlie Kirk was massacred. Martin Luther King assassinated. People are evil. No matter what decade, no matter what century, you have evil individuals out there. And so, people ask, gosh, how safe do you feel being a Jew? Well, thank God for America, and thank God for First Amendment rights, and thank God for my not only Jewish brethren, but my Catholic brethren, my LDS brethren, my Muslim brethren, my Christians, and Hindu, Buddhists. I mean, thank God everybody I'm friends with and close to, have our backs. But it shouldn't be like this. I mean, it's disgusting what's going on, and Catholics are under fire. You can't, I mean, look at what happened to that Catholic church in Minneapolis. You can't take your kids to Sunday school. You can't pray without somebody wanting to kill you. It's not just Jews, it's everybody. And I really think the world should tone down this rhetoric and this, we got to give Hamas a Palestinian homeland. And because we don't, now all this killing is justified of the Jews. Really, no killing is justified. I mean, the people will try to find reasons to hate, and there is no excuse for anything that's been going on. And it's Hanukkah. I am celebrating proudly, and if somebody doesn't like that we Jews want to still practice our religion like anybody else should, they could go to hell. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. Back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So it was a very, very bloody weekend. We had a mass shooting at Brown University on Friday. On Saturday, I believe, we had then the Bondi Beach mass shooting in Australia. Rob Reiner and his wife allegedly stabbed to death. And we are being told that one person who is being investigated is his son. Very, very tragic weekend, not to mention all the other tragedies that happened over the weekend. But let me just review some of the updates, okay? We thought that they got the Brown University, Providence, Rhode Island shooter on Saturday, and apparently it was just a person of interest, and they were released. But what unfolded is this was December 13th on Saturday, where shooting happened at Brown University's Barris and Holly Engineering Building. 2 people were killed, 9 others injured in this shooting. Now, Brown University, this started at about, I think, 4:05. Then about 4:22, there was an urgent alert that notified everybody. The university went on lockdown. They were told to run if you're in the affected location, evacuate safely if you can, hide if evacuation is not possible, take cover, fight as a last resort, take action to protect yourself. Brown issues a second alert on 5:11 p.m., according to USA Today, urging people to still continue to take shelter. And then by 6 p.m., Brown University releases a statement saying there had been multiple shooting victims while exams were taking place between 2 and 5 p.m. So these were engineering students just taking their exam. We don't know the motive, and we still don't have the suspect. Mayor Brett Smiley, along with police and fire officials, held a news briefing within 2 hours of this. And they had reported that 2 of the victims were killed. 8 others at the time were critical but in stable condition, suspect at large. By the next day, there was a possible person of interest. They were, for some reason, interviewed and then released. And we're being told that the murderer is still at large. By 9:30 that evening, the mayor said there was an additional victim that had been identified, bringing the numbers to 2 dead, 9 wounded. We're still hearing more. That can still sadly be evolving. And according to Rachel Friedberg, a Brown's economic professor, she said that the shooting took place in a review session that was led by a teaching assistant ahead of the final exam of her Principles of Economics course. And the room has stadium seating with doors that enter at the top. The shooter came in the doors, yelled something, couldn't remember what he yelled, and started shooting. Now, it's interesting because I taught at a location where I was really nervous about that as well, because the doors, so you're speaking in front and the doors are in the front of the class, and then everybody is in stadium seating. And I'm like, why isn't there a door in the back? There needs to be a door in the back. And I'm just because my father was military, I'm every time I'm in a room or area, I always look at, what the vulnerabilities could be, where I would have to help somebody, how to evacuate if you need to, and how to get people to safety. And I couldn't stand the fact that the doors were almost behind you at the front. And then everybody there could have been a sitting duck. And I really hope a lot of universities are looking at this and changing. I understand having stadium seating is very common in big classrooms, but there has to be a door and exit, on the side, in the front. There has to be, even if there's a fire. You can't have people, if there's a fire at the front, there were 2 doors, but the 2 doors were on the same side of the room. I don't think that's safe. And I think all universities need to reevaluate this. So apparently, the victims were sitting ducks. So from what we understand now, that the shooter, one of the individuals who has been identified as shooting is Ella Cook. The other victim is Muhammad Aziz Zokov, identified as the second, as another victim of the shooting. I don't know if he died or if he is at the hospital. So we're getting more information as we go, but the moral is we don't have the shooter. The shooter is still at large. There's some video footage, but we're being told that the university doesn't have enough video cameras. And I don't think there was enough CCTV in the area. I'm not sure. And you would think there'd be cameras all over university. Brown University is gorgeous. I've been to Providence. I've been to Brown University. It's an amazing campus. The students are phenomenal. And this could have been prevented, and sadly, took the lives of 2, and many are fighting for their lives now. We also have some updates on the Bondi Beach shooting. At least 15 people, death toll has risen to 15, and 27 are in hospitals after a father and son opened fire on Sydney, Australia's Bondi Beach. This has been declared a terrorist incident. It's one of the worst mass shootings in the country in almost 30 years. The victims range anywhere from 10 years old to 87. A Holocaust survivor, as well as 2 rabbis, are among the victims who were killed. And I am very, very impressed with this bystander. I believe he was 43-year-old Ahmed Al-Ahmed. He wrestled the gun off of one of the shooters and stopped more people from dying. When you watch the video, just fantastic job jumping in. The suspects are a father and son duo, according to CNN, identified as 50-year-old Saeed Akram, who moved to the country in 1998. He was killed on the scene. 24-year-old Naveed Akram was born in Australia and is in custody. So you're talking about a 24-year-old who grew up. Australia as his home. shooting other Australians. It's sad. He lived. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said they were driven by extreme ideology and were interviewed by security services back in 2019, but were not part of a wider cell. So, this is just absolutely shocking that something like this happened. Seen rabbis killed, seen kids killed. Rabbi Eli Schlangenger and Rabbi Yaakov Levitan, they were a part of the Chabad of Bondi. And Chabad usually does a big Hanukkah event. This was Hanukkah by the Sea. And it's sad to see anybody die. Already there's been, I think about $1 million donated to the GoFundMe page to support the hero bystander. So Ahmed Al-Ahmed, the hero of this, who jumped looks like the father, the shooter, and I think he pulled the gun on him. He suffered, I think, multiple gunshot wounds. I think at least 2. He's right now in the hospital, an absolute hero for stopping this shooting. And apparently he doesn't have much, shall we say, military experience. And he was able to disarm him. It was fantastic. He jumped him, was able to loosen that gun, got the gun away, pointed the gun on the guy. He starts running, but apparently dies from, I don't know if Ahmed shot him or if police shot him. So we're getting more details as we go. But this was, such, we don't want to live in fear, but we have to be aware that there are very, very disgusting individuals out there that have nothing better to do than to kill innocent students, kill innocent, beach goers. There were other people on the beach too. I just, what radicalizes them, what they're thinking, I don't know. You can't really try to understand their logic if they're mentally ill. Somebody who thinks killing innocent people is ill. And if you're trying to apply your logic going, well, does he think they're, bad? Does he think you just don't know. There's somebody who would kill somebody else, like Luigi Mangione, the alleged shooter of Ken Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare. He was mad about, insurance and what happened to his mom. But that doesn't mean you kill a father of 2. You don't just, somebody doing that is mentally ill. And we struggle to figure out, who is the next shooter. And when you see these videos or manifestos of people getting all excited, like we saw that video from the shooter who shot up the Minneapolis church where he had bullets with writings on it and he was showing off and just a crazy just crazy. And it's frustrating because, we want to identify the next shooter. We want to prevent the next shooter. I mean, how do you celebrate Hanukkah on a beach? Well, now you have to use more law enforcement. You have to have more security. You have to. But I mean, at the Charlie Kirk event, there was security. How much security do we need? It looks like we need a lot. Because these individuals, look at what happened with President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. One punk able to evade law enforcement and Social Security to get on a roof and shoot at the president. I don't know if there's enough security in this world, but it's probably going to take us civilians to be on top of it. And bravo to Ahmad Al-Ahmad for stopping the shooting. Or at least one of the shooters. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So one of the most talented people in Hollywood is Rob Reiner. I was introduced to Rob Reiner as a little kid while my parents were watching Archie Bunker. And Archie Bunker would call Rob Reiner, who played his son-in-law, Meathead. And Rob Reiner would bring up, or his role, his character would bring up more liberal ideology, whereas Archie Bunker had the more stoic, old, more conservative, traditional views, and they would go back and forth. And it was, and you saw he was pretty talented. And my parents were big fans of his father, Carl Reiner. And I remember a little bit of Carl Reiner from the Dick Van Dyke Show. And Carl Reiner was in Ocean's 11. And so, Rob Reiner would never have been called a Nepo baby because he actually earned his place in Hollywood. And then directing Harry Met Sally, his role in Wolf of Wall Street, I believe A Few Good Men, he directed. I mean, he was just, I think Princess Bride. There's so many things that he had done. Very, very talented. And so last night we went to bed hearing that he and his wife were murdered. You just couldn't even fathom how, it was such a bloody weekend already, how there could be more carnage. And then this morning, we learned that the primary suspect was his son, Nick. And it just blows your mind. Rob Reiner was 78 years old. I've heard 2 different reports. One, his wife was 68. Another, that his wife was 70. But his daughter, apparently, Romy, found them at home, in their Brentwood home. And sources said they suffered lacerations consistent with a knife. The homicide division was leading the investigation, so we were told it was a homicide early on. Carl Reiner, his father, had passed away in 2020. I mean, just such such talent that exuded between him and he played Michael Stivic. We remember him as Meathead, but Michael was his name on All of the Family, and he played Sally Struthers' husband. And that was, I think, his big breakout role, and that's when people realized, wow, this guy's got some talent. And then he directed Misery, A Few Good Men, The American President, Bucket List, Spinal Tap 2. And so now we're being told that the son is the primary suspect. Now, the calls came in 3:30 p.m. on Sunday, December 14th. This was yesterday. First responders arrived at the home, saw both Rob and his wife dead. Victims were later identified as them. Nick, in a 2016 interview, the son, spoke with People magazine about his long struggle with drug addiction and ultimately led him to being homeless at one time. Nick told People magazine that his years of addiction formed the basis for the semi-autobiographical film Being Charlie, which he co-wrote. Now, we don't know much more about what could be going on and what happened and what the motive was. But when a son allegedly kills his parents, people say, well, it was drugs. Okay, well, what did drugs do? Because a lot of people are reading this going, wait a second, my kid does drugs, my daughter does drugs, my son does drugs. Whoa, am I going to get killed? And so, drugs play a role, unfortunately, in a lot of crimes. It doesn't necessarily mean it causes the crimes. So if somebody has severe mental illness and they struggle, they might turn to drugs to cope or to manage their symptoms. And so you'll often see drugs and mental illness, but which came first, the drugs or the mental illness? Did somebody do drugs just for fun and then develop a mental illness because of the drugs and the addiction? Or did they have mental illness and they found drugs to be their escape from that mental illness? So we as doctors, we always have to struggle with what came first. When you have somebody on a drug soup with narcotics and speed and when you trying to hash out and figure out, what did what, which came first, you need to. Because if somebody has underlying mental illness, they're going to relapse. They're going to go back to the drugs. You need to make sure that you treat them appropriately with therapy, maybe medications, rehab, whatever, to ensure that they don't go back to the drugs. If they do become clean and it was the drugs that messed them up, they said, you know what, I was just partying and then now I'm just dependent on alcohol or I'm dependent on drugs. Once we could clean them up, get them sober, oftentimes, they could do better. But, unfortunately, many individuals, they don't know their kids. They're either in denial or they just never think that would happen. And people ask, how could somebody kill their parents? Well, again, if they are of mental illness, you can't think, with your logic. We don't know what they were thinking. But oftentimes it's an impulsivity. They're mad, they're angry, and then they act on an impulse. Now, we as humans, we're impulsive. I mean, we act on impulses. We impulse buy. We kiss somebody. We have impulses. I mean, we may gamble. We may, shout at a like I was shouting, because the Cowboys were struggling yesterday. I was like, oh no. So, we might shout at a TV, but we as humans know how to check ourselves. The humans as opposed to other animals. I mean, although I could see my dogs and cats sometimes try to, they want to lash out at each other, but then they stop because they want to, mommy will get mad. But sometimes they can. But for us in society, that's supposed to be one of our gifts. That's what separates us from the other animals in the animal kingdom. We know how to stop ourselves. We might have a fleeting thought of, gosh, I would really like to see that guy that just ran me off the road and cut me off. I'd love to see his car flip. And you're like, no, I don't. I don't want to see anything happen to him. That's not nice. I mean, you might have anger. You might get mad. But you stop yourself. You're like, I'm never going to hurt them. I'm never going to, but if somebody has mental illness or if somebody is under the manipulation of drugs, they're not going to stop that impulse. They're not going to check themselves. And so you need to identify if your family members are a threat. I mean, right now we're in the midst of, how do you know if you can't go to a study group in a university without somebody allegedly shooting you. Look at that Bible study class that happened years ago where somebody just walks into a Bible study and starts shooting. I mean, going to church, enjoying Hanukkah. I mean, we already have people we don't know randomly wanting to kill us. We don't also need that from our own family members. But when our family members are struggling, they're going to lash out at whoever's close to them. A lot of couples will talk to me about, he's supposed to love me or she's supposed to love me, and she's meaner to me than anybody else. Well, it's because you're there. You have that proximity. They shouldn't be. If you love somebody, you shouldn't be mean to them. But I understand that oftentimes you can't, show the outside world how upset you are. So, you communicate with your loved one and you let them see you're quote unquote crazy, but you can't lash out at them. You could lash out in front of them. You could, say, I'm angry on this, but don't blame them. Don't beat up on them. Don't assault them. Don't abuse them. And so, unfortunately, somebody who could be overtaken by drugs, somebody who could suffer from very serious mental illness could sadly lash out, and also they could blame and direct their anger and the guilt of what they're feeling onto you. And so you have to understand that sometimes your kids might hate you. Having a child that hates you can be dangerous. And so you need to be very, very careful with them, because you're going to be in vulnerable places with them. You're going to be at, Christmas dinner, or, they're going to be in your house, or they're going to be, and so you need to be able to identify that. And if at all you think there could be a violent streak, if at all you think you could be in jeopardy, you got to protect yourself. You have to, because you aren't going to help them, overcome what they're going through if you're dead. I pray for Rob Reiner's daughter and family during this difficult time. It's horrible. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away. We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So before Congress goes home for Christmas, because they're about to take the break, I think they leave on Friday. I'm working the whole time. I'm working, but Congress and you should be able to go and spend time with the family. Problem is, work needs to be done, and we need to figure out what the hell to do with Obamacare and our health insurance, which is ridiculously expensive. And for millions of Americans, they are relying on the government paying down their skyrocketing, ridiculously high-priced premiums, not giving the money to them, but giving the money to the insurance companies, who ends up still charging more. But how the system is such now is many of these individuals who qualify will not be able to afford their health insurance. Nobody could afford their health insurance, but especially those individuals who didn't have to pay as high a rate as others, because the government would give the money to the insurance company to which is such a bad system, such a bad system. And so last week, the Democrat bill let's just expand the subsidies for another 3 years. That didn't fly. And then the Republican bill saying, look, why don't we give the money to the voters? Let's give these trillions of dollars to the Americans. They could use it for HSA accounts. And then the insurance companies are going to have to then lower their rates, because they're not getting the gravy train from the government. And if they want Americans to use their money in their HSA, which could only be used for medical costs, for their plan, they'll lower the rates. That didn't pass, because you need 60 votes. So the Democrats are the Republicans are kind of in limbo. Now, the Senator Rand Paul has an idea. Now, I told you what my idea was. My idea was, look, they're leaving on Friday. They're going to have to temporarily expand the subsidies but but not for 3 years. It's just, if Obamacare was not repealed and replaced yet, it's unfortunately still the law of the land. We're still going to have to struggle in the meantime. We're not going to be able to fix it overnight, but we could temporarily, whether it's 6 months, a year, expand the subsidies and then work to fix it and come up with something new and add like a Trump care or something else, or an Obamacare 2.0, which I think is still going to be destined to fail. But we got to come up with something. So Senator Rand Paul is in support of, eventually, getting rid of Obamacare. However, he wants to do a few things. He wants to increase access to HSAs, health savings accounts, by removing income caps. They wouldn't be contingent on specific types of insurance plans as they are now. So it's a little bit more loose. Then you could use it for any medical costs. The contribution limits from $4,400 for individuals and $8,700 for families can go up to now $24,500. Now, why were there caps? Well, because it's money that you could put away without paying taxes on it. So many people get HSAs from their employer. But, previously the government didn't want all that money going into an HSA that could evade taxes. And once it's in that HSA, that's all it's there for. You can't pull it out until retirement. So to have pre-tax money in an HSA, that could be really huge, especially for yearly. If you could have $24,000 yearly go into that, I mean, that could cover some decent medical costs, significant advantages. And then you could use that money when you hit 65 for retirement. So Senator Rand Paul's bill addresses that. Also would expand association health plans for any membership organization to sponsor employer-style health insurance, creating new coverage options through groups like rideshare services, online retailers, wholesale clubs, credit unions, church, and other associations that bring people together. So basically, rather than it just being United, Blue Cross, Cigna, etc., you could have Chamber of Commerce type, where we have health plans that we can have the potential to offer health plans at lower rates. This could be very cool, especially for people belonging to a church, belonging to a credit union, to have other coverage options. They said you could get medical coverage now from any group you care to join. And what's nice about that is it's not employer, because Rand Paul's a doctor. So he understands a little bit more about the medical system than some of the other senators. And the big problem I've had since Obamacare is you lose your job, which many did during the recession. They lost their insurance. So it's a double whammy. You're losing your job and you're losing your health insurance. Why the hell is your health insurance dependent on your employer who could fire you at any time? Now, in the olden days, you worked at a place for 10, 20 years. Now, the average person leaves their job after a year or two, or the average person gets fired in under a year or two. So we have to have insurance independent from that. So I kind of like that. If you're a part of a credit union, if you're a part of a wholesale club like Costco, you're getting health insurance through that? That could be pretty damn cool. Now, it's not that Costco's the new United, that still work with insurance companies, United, Sierra, et cetera. But now there's many, if they have members. So the situation as it stands is your employer-based health insurance is always cheaper than you buying individually because the employer has volume. They have the numbers to bring the prices down. And if United or Blue Cross want your employees, they're going to have to come up with a cheaper rate. So that's why employer insurance is cheaper than individual. So if you could get a Costco membership thing or and these retailers, they'd love it. Because, for example, if you're an Uber driver, you're going to be less likely to leave Uber if you're getting insurance through that. Now, some people will say, well, yeah, but people are less likely to leave their job if they have insurance. Yeah, but most jobs are still covering insurance. So that's not as much of a fear. So it's still a concern. But So another thing is that the health plans can be purchased across state lines. So as opposed to some plans where you could only be taken care of in Nevada. If you go to California, you're out of network. Well, the average person is in multiple states. Look at people who live in Omaha. Or Council Bluffs? Iowa? I mean, or Des Moines. Yeah, or Des Moines. I mean, you're either in Nebraska or Iowa. So you need to be able to have that flexibility. That could be pretty cool. So, Rand Paul might have an idea on that. Workers would be able to be on their employer's plan if they want. They could buy Obamacare plans, or they could buy Obamacare exempt plans. There's a whole variety of different things that. So this could be pretty cool. Now, but what happens now? Congress, I think, leaves on Friday. Well, from what we're being told, the House is going to unveil a health care package, see what they could pass, and then hopefully that goes to bill tomorrow. And if it passes in the House, that'll go to the Senate. The problem is to get all this done. I mean, you would think bipartisanly, right? People would be in agreement that, look, it's a crappy system. Let's just temporarily get the subsidies covered for 2026, and then we're going to fix it starting day one in 2026, so that by 2027, we don't have to be dealing with this BS anymore. You would think, honestly, both sides would agree to that. No. And so if the Democrats are like, well, I just want the 3-year extension and that's it, that's all I'm going to agree to, that's going to be a problem. If the Republicans are like, absolutely no extension of the subsidies, we need to fix this in the next 4 or 5 days, that's not going to work. So the GOP proposal is going to expand the availability of association health plans, which are choice arrangements, impose new transparency requirements on these pharmacy benefit managers to lower the drug costs, and other sorts of cost-sharing reductions to reduce premiums in the individual market. This could be pretty cool, and also allow employers to band together to purchase coverage and drop rates even more. All right, we'll see what happens. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount.
Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.